Have you ever stopped to think that the maps you've seen your whole life, the way the world is laid out in your mind, might be doing more than just showing you where things are? We're about to dive into a really powerful idea that these maps and the words that we use don't just describe our world, they actually build it. And they can limit what we think is possible, or they can open up whole new horizons. So let's just start with the big question. What if the fundamental way you see the world, your own mental maps of places, of power, of what's possible, isn't just a little bit off, but it's actually a story that someone else wrote for you? This right here gets to the absolute heart of it. On the left, you've got islands in a far sea. This is the view that we're all used to, right? This colonial perspective, tiny isolated dots lost in this huge empty ocean. But look at the right. This is a radical alternative, a sea of islands. Here, the ocean isn't a void, it's the highway, it's the connector, it's what brings this vibrant network world together. Today, we're going to take a journey from the map on the left to the one on the right. You have to ask yourself, how did we get stuck on this first map? Well, it goes back to a story of smallness that was imposed on Oceania from the outside. This colonial way of looking at things measured the world very specifically. It was all about landmass. The bigger the land, the more important you were. The sea, that was just empty space. So islands became these lonely, isolated points on a map, and entire communities were then defined by how much they supposedly depended on bigger powers, while completely ignoring the incredible history of oceanic navigation, trade, and the complex societies that have been connected for centuries. This idea of smallness, it wasn't the truth for Pacific people. It was a worldview that was forced on them. New political borders came in and literally chopped up their world, confining their horizons. It was a story told to them, not a story they told about themselves. But what happens when you start to challenge that story? That's where this revolutionary idea from the scholar Apeli Haufa comes into play. He offered a powerful counter narrative and he called it our Sea of Islands. This idea and this framework just flips the whole narrative. All of a sudden, the ocean is no longer this massive barrier that separates everyone, it's the pathway that connects them. The focus shifts from these tiny specks of land to the vast shared sea that holds them together. And listen, this isn't some new feel good idea, it's historical fact. For centuries, oceanic people were some of the greatest navigators the world has ever seen. Their world was expansive and it was defined by constant movement, trade, and intricate family networks that spanned thousands of miles of deep open ocean over thousands of centuries. It was this incredible story that the smallness narrative tried to erase. So, how does this changing a map actually change things in the real world? Let's get specific and look at real examples of Guam. Now, a common argument you'll hear is that Guam is just too small or too isolated, doesn't have enough resources to be fully self governing. But you have to wonder, is that an unavoidable fact or is it just a belief that comes from that old colonial map we saw earlier? Words have so much power. When you call Guam a territory or a strategic location, you're defining it only by how useful it is to an outside power. But when you use words like Samoto culture or you talk about its diaspora communities, you put the story back in the hands of the people themselves, their history, and their deep connections to a much wider oceanic world. Let's just break this down side by side. Guam's identity is a U.S. territory, its geography an isolated outpost, and its potential is limited by size. But if you look through the Sea of Islands' lens, its identity becomes oceanic people. Its geography becomes an interconnected hub, and its potential is suddenly not limited by size but defined by its relationships. And that is a total game changer. And here's the really cool part, this whole thing isn't just about Oceania. The way of thinking, of questioning the maps and the stories that we've all inherited is a tool that any one of us can use in our own lives. And that tool is public philosophy or philosophy. And it's all about taking these powerful philosophical tools out of the toolbox and putting them into our hands so that we can use them to really examine the world around us. It's not about being told what to think, but about learning how to think more deeply about the reality that we live in. And you could actually use this and apply it to yourself. There's a three step process. First, you identify a core assumption you have. It could be about your community, your job, even yourself. Second, question it. Ask, where does this come from? Where does this idea come from? Who does it really benefit? And lastly, imagine. Break down those barriers. Imagine new possibilities without it. Apele Alpha wrote this framework in order for us to change the mindset that we have that we're too small in this huge world. So the next time that you're walking through your campus or you're walking on the beach, talking to a friend, or living your own life, remember that you are part of a larger community. You are part of a story of Oceania. You are part of the ocean that we are all in. All of our stories matter. So the next time you think about how small you are, remember Apeli Alpha and remember that you are part of the Sea of Islands.